Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boss Economics World, the only show that takes the dismal science of economics and turns it into a full-blown circus of absurdity. Today, we're diving headfirst into the latest economic soap opera straight out of Washington, D.C., where former President Donald Trump is stirring the pot like a reality TV chef on a budget. Buckle up, folks, because we've got Fed chairs, Treasury secretaries, renovation scandals, and enough political drama to make your grandma's bingo night look tame. And, as always, we're here to break it all down, from the surface-level clownery to the deep, dark economic underbelly that's got your wallet sweating bullets. Let's go. First up, let's talk about the headline that's got Wall Street buzzing like a beehive doused in Red Bull. Former President Donald Trump, yes, that Trump, has been flapping his gums about who should replace Jerome Powell as the head of the Federal Reserve. And guess who's in the running? None other than Scott Bessent, the current Treasury Secretary, who Trump says is very good but apparently too good at his current gig to take the top spot at the Federal. Oh, and in true Trump fashion, he's also taken a sledgehammer to Powell, calling him a total stiff and whining about, wait for it, renovation costs at the Fed's headquarters. Yes, folks, we've officially entered the era where central banking decisions are being judged by the price of marble countertops. Welcome to 2025, baby. But hold on to your portfolios, because this isn't just about Trump's latest tantrum. Oh no. This is a masterclass in economic absurdity, with layers of dysfunction that go deeper than a subprime mortgage crisis. So, let's peel back the onion, shall we? From the surface-level political theater to the systemic economic issues lurking beneath, we're about to expose the real story, and trust me, it's juicier than a leveraged buyout gone wrong. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? Trump's obsession with Jerome Powell is the gift that keeps on giving. This man has been gunning for Powell since his first term, and now, in 2025, he's back at it, treating the Federal Reserve like it's an episode of The Apprentice. You're fired. Except, oops, he can't actually fire Powell directly, because the Fed is supposed to be independent. But hey, why let a little thing like institutional integrity stop you from throwing shade, right? And this time, Trump's got a new angle, renovation costs. Apparently, the Fed's been sprucing up its digs, and Trump's crying foul, calling it exorbitantly lavish and pretty disgraceful. Oh, the horror. A government building with gasped nice furniture. Call the auditors. Now, let's put this in perspective, shall we? According to the Fed's own reports, the renovation project in question is part of a long-term plan to modernize its facilities, with costs estimated at around $250 million. Sounds like a lot, right? But hold on, let's compare that to, say, the U.S. military's budget, which in 2025 is clocking in at a cool $886 billion, according to the Department of Defense. Or how about Trump's own pet projects, like the border wall, which has already cost taxpayers over $15 billion, per the Government Accountability Office. Suddenly, $250 million for a building that houses the people who literally control the money supply doesn't seem so lavish, does it? But hey, why let facts get in the way of a good soundbite? And here's the kicker, folks, Powell's already called for an inspector general review of the renovation, meaning this whole scandal might just be a big fat nothing burger. But in Trump's world, it's the perfect excuse to keep the pressure on Powell, who, let's not forget, has been refusing to bow to Trump's demands to slash interest rates. Which brings us to our next layer of economic insanity. Interest rates, the economic equivalent of a tug of war between a grizzly bear and a toddler, and guess who's the toddler? That's right, it's Trump, trying to strong-arm the Fed into doing his bidding. For those of you who've been living under a rock, here's the deal. The Federal Reserve has kept interest rates steady in 2025, with the federal funds rate hovering at around 4.5%, according to the latest Fed data. Why? Because inflation, while cooling from its 2022 peak of 9.1%, is still stubbornly above the Fed's 2% target, sitting at 3.2% as of June 2025, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Meanwhile, unemployment is at a healthy 4.1%, meaning the economy's not exactly screaming for a rate cut. But Trump doesn't care about pesky things like data or economic stability. Oh no, he wants those rates slashed faster than a Black Friday sale at Walmart. Why? Because lower interest rates mean cheaper borrowing, which juices up the stock market and makes everyone feel rich, just in time for the next election cycle. Never mind that cutting rates too soon could reignite inflation, sending the price of your morning coffee into the stratosphere. And never mind that the Fed's independence is supposed to protect it from exactly this kind of political meddling. In Trump's world, the Fed is just another branch of the White House, and Powell's refusal to play ball is nothing short of treason. And here's where Scott Bessent comes in, folks. Bessent, the current Treasury Secretary, has been floated as a potential Powell replacement, and he's already stirring the pot. In a recent Bloomberg interview, Bessent said Powell should step down from the Fed's board when his term as chair ends in May 2026, because having a shadow Fed chair would confuse the markets. Oh, the irony. As if Trump's constant jawboning and Bessent's own comments aren't already confusing the markets more than a toddler with a Rubik's Cube. But here's the real question, is Bessent just a pawn in Trump's game, or is he auditioning for the role of Fed chair himself? Either way, this whole saga is a textbook example of why central bank independence matters, and why political interference is a one-way ticket to economic chaos. Now, let's zoom out, folks, because this isn't just about Trump's latest feud or Powell's interior decorating choices. Oh no, this is about the bigger picture, the systemic economic issues that this clown show is distracting us from. First up, let's talk about the Fed's independence, or what's left of it. The Federal Reserve was designed to be insulated from political pressure, with its leaders serving long terms to ensure they can make tough decisions without fear of retribution. But Trump's constant attacks on Powell, and his apparent willingness to install loyalists like Bessent, are eroding that independence faster than a leveraged hedge fund in a market crash. And here's why that matters, folks. According to a 2025 Gallup poll, public trust in the Federal Reserve is already at a historic low, with only 34% of Americans saying they have confidence in the institution. Why? Because when politicians treat the Fed like a political football, it undermines its credibility, making it harder for the Fed to do its job, namely, keeping inflation in check and the economy stable. And let's not forget the global implications. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency, with over 60% of global foreign exchange reserves held in dollars, according to the International Monetary Fund. If the Fed loses its independence, it risks destabilizing not just the US economy, but the entire global financial system. Yikes. And speaking of destabilization, let's talk about the markets, shall we? Trump's comments, and Bessent's not-so-subtle hints about Powell's future, are already spooking investors. Just look at the data. The VIX, Wall Street's so-called fear index, spiked by 15% in the week following Trump's latest remarks, according to Yahoo Finance. Meanwhile, the yield on 10-year Treasury notes jumped by 10 basis points, signaling that investors are bracing for more uncertainty. And here's the kicker, all of this is happening at a time when the U.S. economy is already walking a tightrope, with GDP growth slowing to 2.1% in Q2 2025, per the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and consumer debt hitting a record $17.5 trillion, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. In other words, folks, the last thing we need right now is a political circus at the Fed. But let's bring this back to earth, shall we? Because while Trump and Bessent are busy playing musical chairs with the Fed, the real victims are you, me, and the barista who's still paying off her student loans. If the Fed's independence is compromised, and interest rates are manipulated for political gain, the consequences could be catastrophic. Imagine inflation spiking back up to 9%, like it did in 2022, forcing the Fed to slam on the brakes with rate hikes that make your mortgage payments skyrocket. Or imagine a scenario where the Fed cuts rates too soon, fueling another asset bubble that leaves millennials priced out of the housing market, again. According to Zillow, the median home price in the U.S. is already at $420,000 in 2025, up 5% from last year. How much worse do we want this to get? And let's not forget the professionals watching this, our finance bros and gals, our hedge fund managers, our fintech entrepreneurs. You folks know better than anyone that uncertainty is the enemy of markets. When the Fed's independence is under attack, it's not just the average Joe who suffers, it's the entire financial ecosystem. Just look at the data. A 2025 survey by the CFA Institute found that 78% of financial professionals believe political interference in central banking is one of the top risks to global markets. So, while Trump's busy whining about renovation costs, the real cost is the erosion of trust in the institutions that keep our economy afloat. So, what's the takeaway, folks? This whole Trump-Powell-Bessent saga is a textbook example of economic absurdity, with layers of dysfunction that go deeper than a subprime mortgage crisis. On the surface, it's a political clown show, with Trump throwing tantrums and Powell playing defense. But beneath the surface, it's a stark reminder of why central bank independence matters, and why political interference is a one-way ticket to economic chaos. And let's not forget the real-world impact, on your wallet, your mortgage, your retirement savings, and the global financial system as a whole. So, the next time you hear Trump whining about renovation costs or Bessent dropping hints about Powell's future, remember this. The real scandal isn't the price of marble countertops, it's the price we'll all pay if we let politics hijack the economy. Until next time, folks, keep your wallets close and your skepticism closer. This is Boss Economics World, signing off.